El Clásico, when football becomes a stage for history. Real Madrid versus FC Barcelona. El Clásico is more than just a football match. It's a clash of cities, cultures, and identities. Madrid traditionally symbolizes centralist Spain, while Barcelona and Catalonia stands for pride, autonomy, and the push for independence. This political tension has echoed on the pitch for decades. The two giants first met in 1902, but their rivalry intensified under Franco's dictatorship. Back then, Barca became the voice of opposition, while Real was seen as the regime's club. Iconic matches like the infamous 11-1 in 1943 or Ronaldinho's 2005 masterclass made El Clásico world famous. On the sporting side, everything is at stake. Titles, records, and pride. Messi versus Ronaldo, Guardiola versus Mourinho, every era brought new drama. Today, millions around the world tune in when these two rivals face off. If you're into the stories behind the sport, hit like and subscribe for more football history that still echoes today. Der Klassiker, when Germany's football giants collide. Bayern Munich versus Borussia Dortmund. Der Klassiker is the most prestigious showdown in German club football. It's not the oldest rivalry, but today it's one of the most intense. Since the 1990s, the two clubs have battled for league titles, cup trophies, and Bundesliga supremacy. Dortmund's back-to-back titles in 2011 and 12, plus their DFB Cup win in 2012, turned a fierce competition into full-blown enmity. The 2013 Champions League final at Wembley, which Bayern won 2-1, marked the emotional peak of the rivalry. In the years that followed, several of Dortmund's top players moved to Munich, including Götze, Lewandowski, and Hummels, adding fuel to the fire. Today, Der Klassiker stands for pace, technique, and emotion, a game that never fails to thrill. Even though Bayern often came out on top, this clash remains the Bundesliga's greatest showcase and one of the league's best global ambassadors. The old firm derby, when football becomes a matter of faith. Celtic versus Rangers. The Old Firm Derby is one of the oldest and most emotionally charged football rivalries in the world. It's more than a sporting fixture. It's a clash of cultures, faiths, and social identities in Scotland. Celtic, founded by Irish immigrants, traditionally represents Glasgow's Catholic community. Rangers symbolise the Protestant and Unionist side of the city, turning each match into a battle far beyond football. Since the late 1800s, these two clubs have faced off in over 400 matches, packed with drama, titles, and unforgettable moments. The stadiums shake, the atmosphere crackles, but the tensions often run high. Fan violence, political chants, and protests have long been part of the narrative. Yet, despite their fierce rivalry, both clubs share one thing: unrivaled dominance over Scottish football. Derby della Madonnina, Milan's fight for pride, power, and legacy. When Inter Milan and AC Milan meet at San Siro, it's about more than points. It's about the soul of the city. The Derby della Madonnina, named after the golden Madonna statue atop Milan's cathedral, is one of Europe's most iconic city rivalries. The clubs may share a stadium, but their identities couldn't be more different. Founded in 1899, AC Milan's split with Inter in 1908 sparked over disagreements about foreign players, and birthed a rivalry that's burned for over a century. Milan was long seen as the club of the working class, Inter of the bourgeois elite. On the pitch, legends like Maldini, Zanetti, Kaká, and Ibrahimovic faced off in unforgettable battles. Both sides have enjoyed European glory, suffered setbacks, and returned with unforgettable comebacks. The Derby della Madonnina is pure emotion, choreographed tifos, palpable tension, goosebump-inducing energy. A game that shows just how big football can be when history, pride, and city identity collide. El Derby Madrileño, when Madrid is divided. Real Madrid versus Atletico Madrid. El Derby Madrileño is the ultimate city clash in Spain's capital. For decades, Real was the dominant force, Atletico the gritty underdog, but over the past 2 decades, the balance has shifted. Atleti are no longer the second best. They're a fierce rival on equal footing. Historically, Real Madrid stood for royal elegance, financial power, and global prestige. Hence, the nickname Los Blancos. Atletico, on the other hand, embodied working class, grit, humility, and pure passion. These contrasts still shape both clubs' playing styles and fan bases today. The rivalry reignited in the 2010s. Under Diego Simeone, Atletico became a relentless powerhouse, aggressive, disciplined, and stubborn. Twice they reached the Champions League final, only to lose heartbreakingly to Real in 2014 and 16. pain that only deepened the animosity. Today, every league match between them is a battle, whether at the Bernabeu or the Metropolitano. Madrid may be one city, but when these two meet, it splits in two. Derby della Capitale, when Rome reaches boiling point. AS Roma versus Lazio. The Derby della Capitale is Italy's most explosive football showdown. It's not just about goals or points, it's about pride, identity, and fierce tribal loyalties. When these two meet, the Eternal City comes to a halt. Since their first official meeting in 1929, the Rome Derby has been fueled by noise, passion, and often pure hatred. Lazio was long seen as a club of the elite and conservatives, Roma as a team of the working class and the rebels. These historic divides are still felt in the stands and on the pitch. The Stadio Olimpico, which both clubs share, turns into a cauldron of emotion. Massive choreos, flares, deafening chants, late goals, red cards, off-the-pitch drama. The derby always delivers fireworks. This isn't about tactics or the league table. It's about pride, territory, and beating your neighbour at all costs. It's football in its rawest form. Wild, intense, and unforgettable. Le Classique, the burning heart of French football. Paris Saint-Germain versus Olympique Marseille. Le Classique is France's fiercest and most prestigious rivalry. It's North versus South, capital versus port, modern wealth versus proud tradition. Since the 1990s, this has been more than just a match. It's a national power struggle. For years, Marseille was the soul of French football. Passionate fans, a proud history, and the 1993 Champions League title. PSG's rise came later, supercharged by Qatari investment in 2011. With stars like Ibrahimovic, Neymar, and Mbappe, they've dominated the league and fueled the rivalry even more. On the pitch, matches are often fiery, full of fouls, scraps, and red cards. The fan hostility runs deep, with heavy police presence and pyrotechnic bars a regular feature. Le Classique is the only French fixture that consistently grabs global headlines, and even though PSG often have the edge, every clash with OM is unpredictable. Because of this derby, emotion always trumps logic. The Revierderby, when the Ruhr district shakes. Borussia Dortmund versus Schalke 04. The Revierderby is the most historic and emotionally charged fixture in German football. It's a turf war, a working-class showdown, and pure passion rolled into one. Just 30 kilometers separate the two cities, but for fans, it might as well be a world apart. The rivalry began in the 1920s when Schalke were the dominant force and Dortmund could only watch. Over time, the tide shifted back and forth. Since the 1990s, BVB have had the upper hand, but derbies follow their own rules. Shock results and unforgettable drama are part of the tradition. The atmosphere in both stadiums is electric, with huge tifos, biting chants, and derby fever that grips the region for weeks. For many fans, this match defines the season. The table doesn't matter. A win here can redeem a bad year or save a manager's job. In the Ruhr, this derby is everything. The Merseyside Derby, quiet rivalry, loud emotions. Liverpool versus Everton. The Merseyside Derby is the Premier League's oldest city rivalry and one of the most storied fixtures in English football. Both clubs hail from Liverpool, their stadiums just a short walk apart, separated only by Stanley Park, but united by over a century of footballing tension. The roots go back to 1892 when Everton split from their stadium owner, who responded by founding Liverpool FC. Since then, the city's been divided, red or blue, Anfield or Goodison Park. Unlike many rivalries, this one long carried a spirit of mutual respect. Families were often split in allegiance, but not in love. On the pitch, though, it's anything but gentle. The Merseyside Derby is among the fiercest in the league, with one of the highest red card counts in Premier League history. Especially during the 1980s, when both teams were domestic and European forces, the derby held huge sporting weight. Despite Liverpool's dominance in recent years, the Merseyside Derby remains a cornerstone of English football. Because in this fixture, it's not just about points, it's about city pride, local identity, and the right to claim Liverpool's crown for a few precious months. True rivalry doesn't always need hatred. Sometimes shared history makes every kick count. The Basque Derby, where pride matters more than points. Athletic Bilbao versus Real Sociedad. The Basque Derby is one of the most respectful yet deeply meaningful rivalries in European football. Both clubs represent the Basque country, a region with its own language, culture, and fierce sense of identity. It's a clash fueled not by hostility, but by pride, passion, and regional solidarity. Athletic is famous for their unique philosophy. Only players with Basque roots can wear the shirt. Real Sociedad followed a similar path for years before opening up to foreign players, yet both teams remain deeply committed to upholding and showcasing Basque values on the professional stage. On the field, the matches are intense but rarely vicious. The stands are full, the atmosphere electric, but without the animosity seen elsewhere. And still, when local supremacy is on the line, every duel is fought with fierce determination. This derby may not dominate international headlines, but for those who live it, it's about something far deeper than football. It's about identity. The Istanbul Derby, when a city ignites. Galatasaray versus Fenerbahce. The Istanbul Derby is arguably the most intense football rivalry in Turkey and among the most passionate in the world. It's more than a match. It's a battle between two giants, two cultures, two sides of a divided city. Fenerbahce hail from the Asian side of Istanbul, Galatasaray from the European. But the Bosphorus is only the beginning of what separates them. This derby is about pride, honor, history, the soul of Turkish football. Since their first meeting in 1909, the rivalry has grown into a combustible spectacle that stretches far beyond sport. Expect pyro, deafening chants, political statements, and stadiums bursting at the seams. On the pitch, it's brutal. In the stands, every goal is celebrated like a personal victory or mourned like a betrayal. Regardless of form or trophies, this match always matters. The Istanbul Derby isn't just played, it erupts, and the result can divide the city until the next battle begins. Lisbon Derby, when Portugal's capital holds its breath. Benfica versus Sporting, the Derby de Lisboa, is the most traditional and anticipated rivalry in Portuguese football. It's a clash of two proud clubs with passionate supporters, deep-rooted history and starkly different identities, united only by their fierce competition. Benfica represents the people, mass appeal, working-class roots, and a nationwide fan base. Sporting, by contrast, is seen as the club of tradition and education. Famous for its elite academy, which produced stars like Cristiano Ronaldo, Luis Figo, and Bruno Fernandes. The rivalry began in 1907 when 8 Sporting players switched sides to join Benfica, a betrayal that still echoes today. While Benfica may hold more silverware, Sporting has repeatedly produced golden generations that brought new fire to the derby. Every match is passionate, often unpredictable, and frequently crucial in the title race. On Derby Day, Lisbon splits in two, red and green, pride and defiance. The city vibrates with football energy. Belgrade Derby, when football becomes a battle for power. Red Star versus Partizan. The eternal derby is the most intense rivalry in the Balkans and one of the fiercest in world football. Both clubs are based in Belgrade and have been locked in decades of fierce competition, on the pitch and far beyond. Red Star was founded in 1945 as a military club, with Partizan following soon after as the team of the Yugoslav police. These origins still shape their identities. Politics, nationalism, and state symbolism run deep in the stands. The hatred between these sides is infamous. Flares, violence, and chaos are a near-constant presence. Sporting dominance has shifted back and forth, with both clubs competing for supremacy in Serbia for generations. In Europe, each has made its mark. None more than Red Star, who famously won the European Cup in 1991. When Derby Day comes, Belgrade becomes a pressure cooker, lined with police barricades, silenced away ends, and massive choreographies that light up the sky. Derby of the eternal enemies, where Greek football erupts. Olympiacos versus Panathinaikos. The derby of the eternal enemies is the most explosive and symbolic clash in Greek football. Two clubs, two worlds. Olympiacos, the proud working-class team from the port of Piraeus, versus Panathinaikos, rooted in Athens' middle-class tradition and long-standing prestige. Since the 1930s, this rivalry has been shaped by social divides, cultural differences, and sporting tensions. Olympiacos dominated the league for decades, while Panathinaikos became the eternal challenger, sometimes successful, sometimes struggling, but always defiant. The animosity runs deep and far beyond the pitch. Matchday atmospheres are intense and often volatile, with roaring crowds, massive banners, fireworks, and a tension you can feel. Game suspensions, protests, and clashes have all marked this fierce rivalry. And yet, despite the chaos, the Eternal Enemies Derby remains the emotional high point of every Greek football season. Which rivalry gripped you the most? Drop it in the comments, leave a like, and subscribe for more stories beyond the scoreline.